Hey, welcome to Beat Everyone. I'm Ben Flanagan with AL.com. Alabama smacked Tennessee on Saturday, smoke-filled Bryant-Denny Stadium. As soon as the third quarter, Tennessee still hasn't beaten Alabama in Tuscaloosa in about a million years, at least not since Ty Simpson was about a year old. Nick Saban was coaching at LSU, and when Kalen DeBoer was still in his 20s. But, these things don't really matter. What really matters is that Alabama just won their fourth straight game over a ranked opponent. They're ranked fourth in the Associated Press poll. They're bowl eligible, which is always good, and everybody's projecting them to make the college football playoff, of course, as everybody had it after week one. And we're now more than halfway through the regular season. And joining me now to break it all down, AL.com Alabama football beat writer Nick Kelly. You were there, man. How are you? Have you recovered?
Yeah, some of the smoke is finally leaving my clothes after that whole experience. But yeah, it was a great game, great atmosphere, frankly, Ben. I mean that crowd when Xavier Brown picked off that interception. I mean, that was one of the louder moments I can remember in my time on the beat. And this is my fifth season, and so not that long, but still, that was a pretty remarkable moment.
Yeah, I was not there. I watched it on TV this time, and it seemed like everybody just completely freaked out. I know everybody did in their living rooms or wherever they were watching it. It was just it was the last possible thing that could happen in that moment for Tennessee with what they were trying to do, and the best possible thing that could have happened to Alabama. The emotional swing was just unbelievable. So I know it was an out of body experience, and we can get into the atmosphere a little bit more and a little bit more about the game in just a second. But like I said, I mean, you're watching this from the press box, but ESPN cameras, they caught Kalen DeBoer fired up during the walkout for this game right before kickoff. I don't know if you've seen this since, but you shared a post from Matt Zimmer with Sioux Falls Live, somebody who's been covering DeBoer for many years. And he said that DeBoer has never looked more fired up than he did before the kickoff in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. So, Nick, I mean, look, when you and I interviewed Kalen DeBoer during the offseason, our big takeaway was he seems locked in this year. And then Florida State happens, and then Alabama has responded in such a big way. What's your read on Kalen DeBoer right now, and why do you think he showed the emotion that he did before kickoff on Saturday?
Yeah, he keeps talking about this edge that this program has. So why not display it himself? Why not show some of that fire himself? And that was what stood out to me. I mean, here he's like clapping his hands hard. He's smacking the pad around the goalpost. Like this is a Kalen DeBoer who's, it's a cliche, but he's locked in. He's ready to go. And he talked about how the energy, he was sensing that from his players. So why not display that himself? And I think if he was doing this all the time, if he was, walking the press conference, kicking down the door, that wouldn't be him. But I think he could show a little emotion. He can have those moments of getting pumped up and getting hyped up, and that's what he did. And so that edge that you're seeing him talk about, hearing him talk about pretty much every single press conference at this point, he displayed it.
Yeah, he's not the guy that we think we knew. I think he does seem a little different. I saw people joking on Twitter that y'all made this monster in Alabama and Tuscaloosa after the FSU game because I mean we know what the conversation was, right? And before that game in Tallahassee, again with our interactions, it just seemed like he was very football focused. He understood the moment. He understood the stakes of what it means to be the coach at Alabama, and after what he did and endured during his debut season, going 9-4, and the criticism that he got from people from locally, nationally, regionally, everybody saying you should have made the playoff. It's going to be a bust if you don't. It seems like that got to him, and now I don't know if that's the case. He would probably say that's not it at all. But maybe it's just that he has established culture in Tuscaloosa now, and that players have bought in and they understand his vision and what he's trying to do. And they seem happy on the field and that they're playing with purpose. They're playing with joy. It seemed like they were having a lot of fun. Everybody does when Alabama beats Tennessee. But do you think that there is a tangible culture now that you've been on the field, that you've been around this program, and that Kalen DeBoer is doing exactly what he intended to when he came to Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, every single day it feels more and more tangible. I would say that's probably the best way to put it. And you talk about Kalen's response to that week one. I think that he's able to have conversations and talk to these players in ways that he could not a year ago. because he was trying to keep that roster together. He was trying to, hey, I'm the new guy. You came here to play for Nick Saban. I'm here now. There's a balancing act, especially when guys can enter the portal kind of whenever they want or pop in whenever they want. And yeah, and obviously trying to keep that roster together. And when you have these leaders and these holdovers, these guys who are used to a different way for all these years. And so I think now Kalen, he realized, hey, I mean, he said, this isn't just, reading the tea leaves. He's talked about that, there's some honesty that can happen that didn't necessarily, maybe you could have a year ago. So I really do think that he's in a spot where he's got a good relationship with his players. He's able to have some tough conversations. And I think those conversations happened after that Florida State game. And because of that, you're seeing them reap the rewards that, okay, they were able to have some accountability, able to have a reality check, and it's paid dividends. And you're seeing that, okay, they got that just embarrassment. They've got that out of the way, and that's keeping them sharp. Like that, it feels like a while ago now because this has been an Alabama team that's looked really good, maybe the best team in the country. I still think Ohio State might have that title, but yeah, Alabama is so far removed from that Florida State game. It feels like, but really it's not. And I think they're keeping that in the forefront of their minds right now, and that's helping them. And I think that all comes down to culture.
The question now, too, though, is how did they lose to Florida State? When you look at Florida State now, 3-4, they've been on such a they've taken such a bad turn. They lose to Stanford. They look like world beaters against Alabama in Tallahassee, and I guess a lot of people were hoping that, well, maybe that just means Florida State's really good, that they're a playoff team. This is going to be a really good win on Alabama, or excuse me, loss on Alabama's resume down the road when they're having to make the case to make the playoff. And that's obviously not the case. And Mike Norvell could be on the hot seat potentially after obviously going 2-10 last year. And now the sort of like downward spiral the team appears to be on now. But do you think like you need an answer at this point, given the way Alabama has responded? And it's just kind of, it is what it is. They are who they are now. The team that we see appears to be so competitive nationally that that game doesn't matter. Or is it just that that game matters because of how they responded?
Yeah, I think that Alabama came into the game super confident and for good reason. I mean, this roster had talent, second year of DeBoer, there's more cohesion, there's more, just all these good things we've talked about that you get in a second year now that you're not in this transition year to replace Nick Saban. So they come in very confident. But the moment that they get hit with, oh man, some adversity and they get punched, I think there's a little bit of second guessing. There's a little bit of, okay, what they said was playing their heels, some hesitation, and they didn't respond well in game one. But I think the good news is they had all this tape, they had all these examples that they could take back and point to in practice. Hey, this is why we need to do this way. This is why we need to handle our work this way throughout the week. And I think that they are able to use that game ever since then to keep them focused in practice, to keep them, okay, yeah, we're a good team. But if you don't show up on game day, here's what happens. But I also think that because of what they've done in practice, because of what they've done to build that adversity muscle, it just keeps growing every game. And so, yeah, I think it really was a rock bottom, if you will, that they could learn from, they could use. Because yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like why would they have lost that game when they're beating much better teams that we're seeing as the season plays out? So to your point, I don't know that we'll fully get the answer, but that's probably my best sense of how they kind of fell short in that first week one game. And who you are in week one is not who you are necessarily later on in the season. And I think people forget that sometimes. Sometimes you come out of the gate not as you want to. But I think we're seeing what this Alabama team is truly capable of. And I think a lot of that was mindset.
Yeah, well, I mentioned everyone has Alabama in the playoff now. Paul Feinbaum said that they've separated themselves in the SEC. It's Alabama and everybody else at this point. They keep stacking up impressive wins. And winning obviously helps, but among the fan base, there appears to be serious buy-in with Kalen DeBoer and his team right now. They even love the hoodie, Nick. Like at first it was like, what's he wearing? He doesn't look like a head coach. And now, they went nuts at SEC Nation when he said he was going to be wearing it on Saturday. Nick, after Florida State, everyone, all these shows, I'm pointing at myself, listeners, they were asking the question, is Kalen DeBoer a good fit? Like, is it time to move on? Did this experiment already fail? which was obviously unfair after one game, but people were rightly or not so like they were panicking. Now, much different story. 7 games into the season, 6 wins later from that loss. I mean, let's take a breath here. Let's try to be fair as we can. Like, what does the national conversation around Alabama tell you now?
I think it tells me that Kalen DeBoer still knows how to win big games. I mean, that wasn't a question before, but he keeps proving it. And obviously, the more big games you win, I mean, he's almost like the opposite of James Franklin, where Kalen wins big games. Like you can almost take it to the bank. He's going to win big games. I mean, I think he's only lost the only ranked game he's lost so far. I believe Tennessee was ranked a year ago at Neyland, and a lot just didn't go Alabama's way in that game, and they still could have won that game. So Kalen DeBoer wins big, and people are buying in so much, Ben. They're literally buying his hoodie. Like I don't think you can buy it right now. I think it's sold out. So it is kind of a wild, tangible example of how much people are buying that this is working. And we always figured that, hey, if DeBoer wins, people aren't going to care about the small things. But as you well know, when a coach doesn't win, that's when you start seeing every single small thing analyzed, probably more than it should be for the coach at Alabama. And I do think to your point, at Alabama, you don't just have to know how to coach well because Kalen DeBoer knows how to coach. Like there's no question about that. He would not have won all the games he has at all these different places if he doesn't know how to coach. But knowing how to coach and knowing how to be the coach at Alabama are two different things. Knowing how to manage a roster of these personalities and talent and guys that are 5 stars is something you have to learn how to do, and it takes time. But he seems to be managing it well. And I do think that folks are realizing that Kalen DeBoer, no matter where you put him, he knows how to win big games. But the question is, can they win games they're not supposed, or they are supposed to win, I should say, that they should win no matter what. And so that's, to me, to transition to this week, if they could beat South Carolina, I think that totally like fulfills and proves all the doubters wrong about Kalen DeBoer. If he can beat South Carolina, a team that is not looking good, but it's on the road in a game that Alabama probably would have lost last year. So we'll see what happens. And I think this game this week can show you if DeBoer is the real deal, if this is going to work 100%. But so far, I mean, it looks fantastic. All these big games he's won. But I think this is just one more step to show that this is going to work well.
So DeBoer, after beating 4 ranked teams, whatever his ranked record is against ranked teams, and beating Georgia twice now, and he's going to prove he's the real deal when he beats unranked South Carolina, who seems to be on the verge of going 6-6. But in all seriousness, this is a game that they lost last year, right? Like they go on the road to Oklahoma, they lose. They go on the road to Vandy, they lose. And these are games, like you said, that they're supposed to win, and they get up for the big games, and there's this like big letdown, and they have to win these games. They're not gimmies. This is the SEC, and these are all competitive teams with a lot of super talented players. And on any given Saturday, anything could happen. And we certainly saw that in Nashville last year. But I guess it's tough to answer this because we've talked so much about his success against ranked teams, but like, why does Kalen DeBoer get up for big games? It might be obvious, right, that the stakes are so high that you want your team prepared and you're going to do everything that you can to win, because to win that game will put you on that, give you that national spotlight, put you in that national conversation, get you closer to your goal of winning a national championship. But what is it about these big moments when the stakes are so high that gets the best from Kalen DeBoer?
I think it's because he's a great coach. He knows how to scheme. He knows how to essentially outduel an opposing coach who's a good coach. Like, I mean, again, this is a guy who has done it at every level. He's done it at Sioux Falls when he was that 29-year-old offensive coordinator. He's done it at Fresno State. I mean, just all these different places that, and even Indiana, like what that staff did, I think it was 19. It looks less impressive now just because of what Kurt Cignetti has done. But that was a different era of college football. Like that was not the NIL era where you could go and get all these players like you can now. And that staff, I think, went 8-4 or something like that. And I'm not looking at the stats right in front of me, Ben, but he's a good coach. Like there's no doubt about it that Kalen DeBoer can put together a good game plan, especially when you give him 2 weeks. I mean, look at what he's done coming off buys, coming off open weeks, where he's beaten Georgia twice. He's beaten LSU last year in a big way on the road in Death Valley. So this is a guy who, when you give him time to prepare, and even if you don't give him extra time, he's going to prepare pretty well. And his staff seems to do really well at preparing for those big games. So I think that it really just comes down to how well Kalen DeBoer can coach. Because I think we talk so much about all the other things about coaching, all the other things about leading a program, what he's wearing, all these different aspects of leadership. But when you come down to the basic level, Kalen DeBoer is just a great coach, and that's why I think you see it come through in those big games where I believe he's 19-3 against top 25 teams in his career.
Nick, you mentioned Kalen DeBoer being 29 years old at Sioux Falls. You know, that happens to be the age that he was the last time Tennessee beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And, you know, we wrote a piece on AL.com last week looking at how the world looks so different the last time Tennessee beat Alabama in Bryant-Denny Stadium. How old were you when that happened?
I believe I was 5 years old in 2003.
5 years. I had just graduated high school. Of course, I'm 57 years old now. George W. Bush was president. Ty Simpson would turn a year old that December after Tennessee beat Alabama. Ryan Williams wasn't even born yet. Mike Shula was obviously the coach at Alabama. Brody Crowell was the starting quarterback. Nick Saban was coaching LSU to a national championship. The New England Patriots would beat the Carolina Panthers in the Super Bowl. LeBron James was starting his rookie season with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Do you know the Heisman Trophy winner was the last time Tennessee beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Nick?
Oh, goodness. Because Reggie Bush was 05, right?
It's not Reggie Bush.
Okay. I mean, obviously I was not aware during that time. You're just going to have to tell me.
Jason White, the quarterback at Oklahoma. Remember him?
I mean, no, because again, I was 5, but sure.
Alabama native Ruben Studdard won the American Idol season 2 that year. The iTunes store had just launched in April. SARS was an epidemic for several months at that point, and the world population was 6.4 billion people. It's, of course, increased by about 2 billion since then, Nick. So it's been a while. And like I said, the world
some good research right
looks
there.
like a different place, to say the least. So that game, though, you mentioned Xavier Brown and just how insane it was. I mean, Nick, I think Alabama fans, this is just a theory of mine, having watched them for a few years. I think Alabama fans might be more satisfied beating Tennessee than maybe any team that they beat every year, other than maybe a national championship win, whoever their opponent might be. Do you ever get that sense from Alabama fans that like this hatred is actually real? We spent so much time on like the rivalry and the hatred, but like you saw it on Saturday. I remember a couple of years ago when they got revenge from the 22 game, they lit those cigars up so fast, probably sooner than they should have with that game. But they truly hate Tennessee and they love to win. What did you see on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. And this is me not as an Alabama fan, not growing up as an Alabama fan, but my assessment on kind of their big games. Beating Auburn's relief at this point. I think it's just a case of you were just glad that Auburn didn't win. If you're an Alabama fan, like it's not like a, I mean, of course they like to beat Auburn, but I don't think that it's a case of, hey, this is the biggest win of the season. Tennessee, I think there is a significant, hate of Tennessee. You go in, beat a team that, especially now that Tennessee started winning a couple games in the rivalry, they've both been at Neyland, but I think now that the rivalry is back after all that time that Alabama was just winning, I think that, yeah, there's a lot of satisfaction because you get the action of, you get to smoke a cigar, you can sing Dixieland Delight loud and proud, like all these different things that you can do. And yeah, and I think the other game, Ben, to me, that I feel like is the biggest source of satisfaction for Alabama fans is beating Georgia at this point, just because Georgia has been one of the preeminent programs in college football the last few years because of Kirby Smart. And yet they still can't really figure out how to beat Alabama except for that one game in 2021 with Jameson Williams and John Mechie being out of that game. So I think there's a lot of satisfaction in the Georgia game. So I would say that Alabama fans have the most satisfaction beating Tennessee, then Georgia, and then Auburn is somewhere along the way on that list of just relief beating them.
They're probably numb to the feeling of beating Georgia at this point and don't really know how to feel anymore because of how often it happens. It just becomes so normal and regular. So, yeah, well, let's move on here, Nick. I mean, I'm kind of interested in your thoughts on a couple of fan items. You know, we mentioned the cigars. Let's just knock this out. I mean, again, you were there. Fans started lighting up so early. And again, I think too soon. I think I saw people sparking up on TV like in the third quarter. I mean, even I think Patrick Surtain, the Denver Broncos former Alabama superstar cornerback, he even tweeted like "smoke them" as soon as Xavier Brown returned that pick six, right? So it's like halftime, and people are already ready to light up, and they think it's over at this point with how much momentum that they had. But again, like I think people just can't help themselves. Again, like I think they're so happy when they beat Tennessee that they're just ready to rub it in as soon as possible. But what was it like seeing the stadium just go up in smoke in person, because the cameras caught just like the billowing with like wide shots up into the lights of Bryant Denny Stadium? It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, jubilee is kind of the word that comes to mind, and fans, both smoking cigars and Dixieland Delight played twice, Ben, during the game, and so they got to not only sing it once in the first quarter, but they got to sing it twice later on as they're I think it was around the time that the cigar smoke was starting to billow throughout the stadium. So yeah, it was a legitimate party, I would say. And that party started before the final whistle blew. It kind of just felt inevitable, even though Tennessee kept trying to drive a few times. It's just kind of like, all right, wrap this up. And Alabama fans were certainly enjoying that one.
At AL.com, we used to ask people to send us their cigar photos, like as soon as the clock hit zero, and we would just get swarmed, inundated with emails because of how again satisfaction seems to be the word. Like they're just so pleased, and they enjoy that annual cigar. If it was annual for 15 straight years, don't forget, during the Nick Saban era, and that was always a fun tradition. But I'm interested in another tradition here because you mentioned Dixieland Delight, Nick. So work with me here for just a second. Is Dixieland Delight Alabama's best tradition? So you've got Rammer Jammer, Walk of Champions, Thunderstruck, homecoming, all this bonfire and parade, and all these great homecoming traditions, the cigars, which we've talked about at length here, tailgating. I mean, you could go down the list of these amazing traditions that fans get to experience annually, week to week, with Alabama football. But it seems to me that Dixieland Delight is the thing, the individual moment that people most look forward to now. The crowd is never more energized when it plays, especially when they're up big in the fourth quarter against a good opponent. Like the feeling is just so overwhelming. It has insane crowd participation. They've made it their own thing, no matter what garbage they decide to pipe in on the PA. Other than the clock hitting zero, again, when they win a national championship game, I think it's the one thing that probably makes the fans happiest week to week, the thing that they look forward to in Bryant Denny Stadium. People absolutely lose their minds. They sing along, they dance. Dixieland Delight, Nick, I think it's the current champ, best Alabama football tradition. What do you think?
Dixieland Delight, in my mind, and for my money, is the best tradition Alabama has, because all you have to do, if you run into an Alabama fan in public and you start playing Dixieland Delight, or say it starts playing over some kind of elevator music, loudspeaker, or something, they're going to smile instantly. And I don't know that anything else is going to have that effect on them quite as easy as that song being played, which is remarkable because it's really not a song that is super intense or upbeat. In stadium song wise, it's really not high on the list of songs you think would get people really pumped up and amped up. But it does every single game, and especially when they're playing one of the three teams that they like to mention in the song. Like you hear the especially loud and Tennessee too. You could hear that throughout the stadium in that Tennessee game, and you can tell. I mean, it's just people just unbridled joy singing that song, and I think that the smiles you see on people's faces, there's nothing quite as big as other than just a straight up football play that's maybe say a 99-yard interception for a touchdown that makes people that happy. So I think that that's the best kind of tradition, Ben. It's not only one that people look forward to, it's also one that when it happens, people almost have an out of body experience. And I think it's pretty cool when it happens.
Yeah, you say when they mention certain teams during the song, it gets so loud that even during the Auburn part, you hear them saying "Beat Auburn" through the speakers of Bryant Denny Stadium. And it's amazing how loud they get during that part, especially Nick. Gosh, amazing for sure. But I was at the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago, the game they lost to Michigan, obviously in Nick Saban's last game, and the Dixieland Delight moment there translated in the Rose Bowl, and Alabama was up in the fourth quarter. They had all the momentum. They thought they were going to win that game. I did too. I was convinced Alabama was going to win that game. and just to be there in person, to hear out everybody singing, thinking we're going to the national championship, and just singing that thing with as much passion as they ever had. It was a cool moment. Didn't work out that way, but they'll always have that moment of singing Dixieland Delight inside the Rose Bowl. As much, I'm sure they enjoyed that as much as they do when they do it in Bryant Denny Stadium. Let me ask you about the hoodie, Nick. Are you superstitious at all? Like, I wonder, is there anything to this record that he has amassed? What is he, like 13-2 while wearing the hoodie or whatever it is? Like, do we believe that a piece of clothing can give a coach confidence or like an identity on a sideline? Fans have embraced it. Like I mentioned earlier, you can't buy it anywhere. Like you said, it's out of stock online. No stores in Tuscaloosa even have them. Nick, is the hoodie thing real?
Look, to quote Michael Scott, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. And if it works for you, it works. I mean, that's the thing. It's all about mindset. It's all about mindset. We talked about how that was missing in the Florida State game. And it's funny the things that people do to get them in the right mindset. But to me, whatever works for you in terms of, hey, you feel ready to go, whatever works for you in terms of, okay, this is what I need to be able to wear to succeed, whether that's, I mean, heck, if you're wearing like a bright neon green hoodie and that's what works, well, great. It just happens to be black, and to label the black hoodie of death is I think the label that Eli Drinkwitz used, and so what a great name. It's a bit Darth Vader-esque. So I think it's fun for fans, but if it works for Kalen, it works for Kalen, and there's no reason to believe that once you start winning in something, why not keep doing it? So I mean, hey, keep wearing the hoodie if you're Kalen. If it works for you, it works for you.
Be yourself. That's my thing with Kalen DeBoer. Like, do what makes you comfortable. Do again, if it gives you confidence, great. Like, if you don't even think about it and it doesn't matter, then whatever. Just wear what makes you comfortable on the sideline and makes you like able to focus on football, right? And focus on winning games. And that's what he told us too. It's just like, why change something that has been working? To your point. So I like it. Look, Alabama fans love Eli Drinkwitz right now, and I love the white hoodie that he wore in Columbia a couple of games ago. So it was like spy versus spy almost. I love that. But Nick, let's close with this. I mean, something a little more football oriented, right? Like I was looking at just like the NCAA stats right now and where Alabama stacks up nationally in a lot of these categories. And I just wonder, like, if you think stats tell any sort of story right now. So, like with total defense, they're ranked 18th nationally. Oklahoma is number one, Missouri number two. Alabama was able to move the ball against Missouri. Scoring defense, they're 22nd. Total offense, surprisingly, they rank 42nd. They have about 423 yards per game. USC's number one, Florida State number two, Tennessee number five, who they just faced, obviously. And then like third down conversion percentage, I thought that they would be pretty high because Ty Simpson's very impressive on third down and has been great against a team like Georgia and some others so far. They're 17th nationally, but a few stats where they rank very high this year so far. Team passing efficiency, sixth overall in the nation. Indiana's first. Indiana obviously ranked ahead of Alabama currently. Red zone offense, sixth in the nation. So very high. And then turnover margin, third. All the complaining that people do about Kane Womack, one half to the next. The Alabama's forcing turnovers and they're making plays and getting stops that they really need on defense right now. But like when I read those stats and when you look over them, is there anything that sticks out to you with Alabama right now?
I think a lot of it makes sense, but I'll say this about Kane Womack and the defense. If you look at, and I don't have them right in front of me like you do, but Alabama's defense has had to face three of the top offenses in the SEC, some of the top offenses in the country of late, in Missouri, in Vanderbilt, in Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee had the number one scoring offense in the country coming to that game, and they probably still do. And Alabama held them to 20 points. So I think that when you measure it by, okay, the days of giving up maybe 10 points per game or fewer, then yeah, it feels like it's not as successful. But when you look at who they're playing, they're giving their team a chance to win about as well as you can in an era where it's hard to limit teams to 10 points or less per game. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they can't be better. I think they would tell you the same. But I do think when you start looking at it in that context, it really is stunning how good these offenses have been the last few weeks, especially running the football. I mean, these are also some of the best rushing offenses in the country in the SEC that they've had to face. So I think they're looking forward to facing South Carolina, that in theory has the worst offense in the SEC this week.
All right, Nick, numbers never lie, right? Especially those in the
Never.
W column. The W column are just like they're growing, stacking wins so far right now. Kalen DeBoer is on a roll, and everybody thinks that Alabama is the best thing since sliced bread right now. But we know what can happen week to week, and all it takes is one loss to change the entire conversation. But it's a big one this week. Columbia, South Carolina, your second Columbia of the season so far. How do you feel about that?
I'm excited because it is the last SEC town for me to go to. So I'm going to officially complete the 16 team cycle now, right? Like that's how many I can't keep track these days. The number always seems to change, but yeah, it's the last one for me. I'm excited about it, and frankly, like I said before, I do not think that you can criticize much if Alabama can take care of this game, because then Kalen DeBoer is doing everything. He's winning big games. He's winning games he should. So to me, this game is such a crucial game for Kalen to win, to continue to boost the narrative that this is legitimately one of the best teams in the country, and that Kalen DeBoer is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach. I mean, you can make that argument if he's winning every game now that he's up there. So we'll see what happens.
He's on the short list for the Bear Bryant Award, Nick. You got that press release, I'm sure. So he's on the watch list. All right, well, you got to go read all of Nick's coverage on AL.com and his colleague Matt Stahl, for that matter. All of our Alabama football coverage has been outstanding. It's going to continue to be so this week and beyond. Go check out Nick's work. Nick, we appreciate it as usual.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ben. Always enjoy it.
All right. Find Beat Everyone wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get it. Check us out next time. You'll get another episode from us this week. More on the South Carolina game later. Thanks, everybody. I'm Ben Flanagan with AL.com. See you next time.